How's it going, everyone? Darius here.
And Carmen.
And we're the founders of Wealth Nation. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a reaction video to CNBC's Millennial Money. This is a series on YouTube that we really enjoy. And this is another one that we want to do a reaction video on so that you can kind of see how people are spending their money and budgeting in places that seem to be super expensive. Now, this one that we're going to do today is on a gentleman named Jason that lives off of $97,000 annually in Los Angeles, California.
And we did another video before where there was another gentleman who lived in our nation's capital off of $45,000. So we learned a lot from him as far as how he makes it work for his particular family. So let's go ahead and check out Jason and see what he has going on.
All right, so let's let Jason introduce himself.
About when I quit my job, because the truth was that there wasn't a great business plan when we were starting Jubilee as a nonprofit. I was lucky that I had saved a good amount during my time as a consultant. So I had, at least some money saved that I knew that I could live off of.
Now I'm going to go ahead and stop it here because one thing that I appreciate that Jason said up front was that he didn't have a big plan, right?
Yeah, he didn't have a good business plan.
However, he did have some money saved up. So at least he had something.
Right.
Because what we know from being business owners is it is very stressful if you go into something without a plan and you don't have money. So at least he had money to add to the table.
So that is a very important note for everyone to make. If you don't have a plan, then
get one.
Yeah, get one. 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to get to where you're going because you don't have an idea on how to get there.
Yeah. What is the quote? I know you guys know. Let us know in the comment. Without planning, you're planning to fail. Something like that.
There you go.
You know what I mean. I know I butchered it, but you get the point.
My name is Jason Wiley. I'm 33 years old. I make $97,000 a year and I live in Los Angeles, California. I am the founder and CEO of Jubilee Media. Jubilee Media is a digital media company that creates content and shows and now film and TV. And we hope that one day that Jubilee will become, the Disney for empathy. I initially started by paying
I really think it's cool that he is a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
He has a business on YouTube and he's able to pay himself and his employees a decent amount of money by being a YouTuber. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah. Kudos to him. He got it going
myself 30 grand. And the reason was because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't me taking money out of the business that would hurt the business. And I wanted to rather pay people more money, treat people well, and build something that we were really proud of. And then as we've been growing and Jubilee has become more successful.
Now that noise that you made, what was that for?
Oh, I think it's just smart. A lot of times, well, you had made the point earlier about YouTubers. A lot of people don't realize that people who have YouTube channels, there's a whole team behind them in order to get these videos produced and also to service the business that they have. So I think that it's smart that he realized like, okay, I'm only going to take 30 grand out of the business to pay myself because I'd rather put more money towards my employees and my resources so that I can continue to cash flow for my business. Yeah. A lot of times as business owners, we make the mistakes where we take too much money from our business to pay ourselves, and then we limit the amount of spending that we can do for our resources, not realizing that our business is an investment in itself, and every single dollar that we're spending to ourselves or irresponsibly, whatever it is, we're losing the amount of capital that we can contribute towards furthering our business.
Yeah, and to me that it showed that he took it seriously from the beginning on what he wanted to accomplish and the vision that he had for himself and his business.
So remember, take notes. These are nuggets, big nuggets, and things that we learned over time.
Right.
More successful, we've ended up right now at $97,000. I'm really proud to be Korean American. I'm proud to be a child of immigrants. And now I'm incredibly proud to be an Asian American founder and CEO.
So before we get into his childhood and how he was brought up, do you think him being a child of immigrants has something to do with how he is going to spend his money? Or how he spends his money and how he's going to tell us that he does it?
I sigh because I want to say yes, in the sense of, you know, with my family, with my family upbringing, you know, my father, first generation American, and I really feel like it influenced how he works, which influenced, you know, my family and my brothers. However, that's not the same for every family. I would like to say that's the case for Jason, and being the fact that he's Asian American, knowing that their culture, you know, has different principles and philosophies when it comes to money. One thing that I would say though is that I feel like immigrants and you know, first, second, third generation, whatever it is, I feel like the first generation has a completely different perspective, because whatever country you come from, once you come to the United States, the land of capitalism and opportunity, you're like, why y'all's houses so big? Why y'all have so much stuff in your houses? I think a lot of times people look at this and go, wow, I have the opportunity to save more money instead of spending on all this stuff that I don't need.
Yeah, and I can second that. My family aren't immigrants. But when I think about the time that I spend with your family, the ones that are still in the Dominican Republic, or some of the ones that have moved to the United States, the mindset is different, especially when it comes to business, when it comes to stuff that they're passionate about. It's just different. And I think as Americans, we may sometimes take for granted the stuff that we don't know we have an advantage on.
Yeah, we don't. And that's why immigrants continue to come in and close up shop or clean up shop, because they see the opportunities.
They're able to see opportunities more than we can.
Yeah.
We can't think outside of the box, inside of the box.
Growing up, I didn't see myself represented in the mainstream, not only in media, but also in business. Now that I'm starting to do some of these things, I hope that I can be just an encouragement to other people as well. My parents were both grad students for most of my childhood. We didn't have the most. I think most evenings we were eating pizza or box dinners. Growing up in an Asian household, we really didn't talk about money. I think watching my parents, I saw that they were always really conscientious about money, and they did a great job of saving, but something that we never had an opportunity to talk about was what it meant to invest even. Yep. Now, as I've become
Now, he talked about growing up eating pizza and box dinners.
Yes.
And what that made me think about is the fact that there's different budgets. There's a physical budget that you actually have to live within, and then there's a budget that you're able to create that is kind of like a guideline.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So the physical is you don't have enough money to get a bigger house.
Okay.
You physically don't have enough money to go and eat out every single day. You physically don't have enough money to get a really, really fancy car. That's a physical budget. The parameters that you have to live within your income. And then there's a budget that you can create where you decide on where money goes, how you allocate different funds. And that's what I got from the initial reaction to him eating box dinners. Now, another thing that I thought about is the fact that they didn't really talk about money as a family. And I think it's really important that we, as parents and even Americans, to talk about money in the household. Because when you think about the household is basically a business, and that household has to operate by making sure that the house is paid for, or the rent is paid, the utilities are paid for, and that we're able to get to and from our different means of income.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we talk about our finances or talk about money with kids as early as possible, because even when I think about him, his memories of money goes back to when he was a kid.
When he was a child, yeah.
So if we know that as parents, then we should talk about it more, as much as we possibly can, at the dinner table.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely making sure that everyone has a role in that conversation, because you just never know how children are consuming the information that you're talking about. Now, one thing, going back to the point you're making about the box dinner dinners and like a physical budget versus the actual budget. I think that that's an interesting perspective to see, because what he said was that they ate box dinners, but his family was really good with savings, and that they were grad students. So you already know that with grad students, we're dealing with a limited income, but he said they were good with saving. So like you said, to that point, they said, okay, we're not going to spend a ton of money over here over food, but we're going to make sure that we always have some savings.
Right.
So that it's just interesting perspective on how we choose to allocate things, because we get it a lot of time where people go, Carmen and Darius, I can never save money because I never have money left over after I pay all my bills. But these grad students decided,
which is true.
Yeah, which is true. But these grad students decided to say, hey, we're going to pay ourselves first, and then everything else is going to come secondary after that.
So you think that's going to have a big effect on his budget when we see it?
Totally.
Okay, let's keep going.
An adult, it's something that I'm learning, and I learned in school, and I've learned through others, and I've started to recognize that this is something really important for us to learn.
Now, he talked about where he understood finances. He learned it from school. He learned it from other people. He learned it from his environment. And that's something that we talk about in our course, The Money Blueprint, how our understanding of finance not only comes from our parents, it comes from our religious leaders, it comes from our schools, it comes from everything around us, the television.
Yeah.
What's
our babysitters.
Our babysitters. All that influences our ideas around money.
Totally.
So Jason and his wife live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, California for $2,800 a month, which they split evenly.
We primarily put a lot of our money into the same checking account, and then we share a credit card that we kind of use on big expenses, everything from like furniture to rent. And then we also have our own individual checking accounts and credit cards, and that's so that we can kind of maintain our own credit and also have flexibility.
That's cool.
We generally have always agreed on our finances. Not down to the dollar, but how do we want to use our money and what do we care about? You know, sometimes that she wants me to spend.
All right, so let's take a look at this. More than 25% of his income is going to savings and investing. That is amazing. He's saving and investing more money than his rent.
Yes. That's unheard of. Typically, people don't ever usually do that, but that's amazing to see, because again, like we said earlier, he's prioritizing his savings because that's one thing that he saw growing up. But the other thing that he said was his family didn't talk about investing. So he obviously has empowered himself to know that investing is important so that he can create cash flow. So he's making that also a priority.
It absolutely is. It's number one priority, and it should be a number one priority for everyone to spend what's left over.
Exactly.
And what's left over is $1,400 in rent, which $2,800 by him and his wife, they split it evenly. Discretionary expense. What's in discretionary expense? Let's see. So for his discretionary expenses, donation, travel, and hobbies.
Love it. And I like the fact that it's $1,000. That's a nice beefy discretionary account, because again, a lot of people think that when I think about a budget, I don't have discretionary funds. Everything has to go towards, bills or whatever it is. But no, it's just having a plan for how much money is going to go where. So don't ever think that we're skimping. We're just trying to have a plan. That's all it is.
Yeah. And he could have absolutely put some of his discretionary income into his investments. I see that he's doing savings, Roth IRA, stocks, angel investing, in cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Now, he could have absolutely put more of his discretionary income towards the cryptocurrency. But because he already has funds allocated for that, he can do that.
Yeah.
He's spending $380 a month on food, or well, his part of it.
Yeah.
$380 a month on food.
And you can just see through car and gas, utilities, insurance, he's making it work. So
Right.
I love the fact that Make It actually brings out every single penny for the budget, just so that you can compare and contrast and see how well you're doing against how much Jason is making.
So if I think of his expenses outside of his rent, it's about 25, less than 25%. If I just look at the circles, less than 25% outside of his rent is going towards expenses. A lot of his funds is going to savings and discretionary spending. So that's really, really good. That's really good.
Yeah, he's making it.
He's doing it.
He's doing it.
Less money on some investments or on cryptocurrency, for example, things that sometimes are more risky. On the other hand, she does financial news, so she's actually a lot more familiar with a lot of those things sometimes than I am. But what we
That's his cheat code. His wife does financial news.
Yep.
And he said most of the time they agree on their finances. So not only does his budget reflect the fact that he's in a relationship with someone that they're on the same page financially, but her focus is finance. She talks about financial news.
True. And it's something that we didn't address when he was talking about how he and his wife allocate their funds. They have an account, they have a credit card together, and then they have their own accounts. It is important that as a couple you are in unison with what's happening with your finances so that you can all be on the same page and you all can work towards a specific goal. If one person's doing their own thing and the other person is doing their own thing, it makes it really difficult to come together and accomplish goals if you don't have any idea what you all are doing as a unit.
Right.
So every couple has their way of managing their funds. You have to do what makes sense for you, but we totally recommend that you're at least in the loop of what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. 20% of his income goes to discretion. Out of $5,000, $1,000 goes to probably his separate checking account where he can do his travel and hobbies and things of that nature.
And they've agreed upon it.
Yeah.
generally say is anything that would cost more than $300 or $400, we definitely should chat about it beforehand.
Awesome. Love that.
I thought that is what it means to be successful, to be rich, would be to make over $100,000. I had spent my entire kind of high school and college career, my entire life, working towards that goal. And then
You got Obama in there, so he has been doing pretty good for himself. He started a six-figure consulting business.
And he has a picture with Obama.
And a picture with Obama. He doing all right.
Check.
Yo, he got a picture with a president.
slowly, I think I realized that that's not necessarily what I wanted to do.
It took him 2 years to quit his job. He started the project while he was working his job. Him and his brother worked nights and weekends. 2 years, he was able to quit his job and work on his project full time.
I like that they disclose that, because a lot of times our businesses do start out as side hustles and we are working into the wee hours of the night to try to get this thing off the ground. So again, going into the fact that there was a plan, he was working this thing, although there wasn't an amazing plan, like he said in the beginning, at least he was working his goals and said, you know what, I want to start taking this to the next level.
Yeah, and it was interesting is how young he looks. That's almost 10 years ago. He looks like a baby. And he was a consultant
Back then.
then. That's really cool.
The idea of leaving my successful traditional job to do something completely different honestly scared me to death. And that I had worked so hard up until this point to do something that other people, quote unquote, deem to be successful. And what if now I became the laughingstock of, my friends or my community or my family?
We all go through that. So one thing that I want to talk about, where he was saying that he thought his level of success was making six figures. That's what we thought as well. Working corporate America, making six figures, we would have made it. But then you realize money isn't everything. And you realize, happiness sometimes plays a big role in that. Go figure.
Do you think a part of it has something to do with being broke for so long until you graduate from college?
No, I think it's a society thing. I think society puts this thing in our heads where we're like, you have to make $100,000 in order to be stable, or in order to consider yourself a winner. And then you have to have this amazing house, this amazing car. Like when you think about the society standards, there's like a laundry list of things that you need so that you can look a certain way to your neighbor.
Okay.
That's my take, at least. But pause that for a second. But I was just speaking to that point where he thought that all of these things were going to fulfill him, and then he realized that he wasn't fulfilled. And so it didn't even matter if he went back to making $30,000. At least he was doing something that he enjoyed doing, which was his media company.
Right. So what it suggests is that you can be making $1 million and not enjoy what you're doing, and it's not enough. If it's not fulfilling, then it doesn't make a difference. Money isn't the thing that fulfills you. It's what you're doing. Money is just the byproduct of it.
Absolutely.
When I was first raising capital, I went to so many different investors, I went to so many different VCs, and it was no after no, 20 or 30 no's in a row.
Wow, that's a nice chunk of change to raise for your startup, $650,000. Now, he could have basically bootstrapped it, kind of like what we did.
Did you say bootstrap or
Bootstrap.
bootstrap? Okay.
Bootstrap it where you.
No, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
That southern charm, that southern accent came out, and I was like,
know,
what did you say?
sometimes it comes out by accident, especially when I get excited. But in any event, $650,000 is a lot of money to raise for his media company when he could have just bootstrapped it and not have to worry about raising any money. What do you think?
Well, I think it also goes back to determination and seeing your vision through, because after he said after 20 no's, he still pursued.
Right.
You know, a lot of people stop after the first, second, or even the fifth no. But if you know that you have something of value, all you have to do is find the right person. And sometimes it's going to take sifting through hundreds of people sometimes to get one yes. So that's why I would say is that he had clarity and he had the fortitude to see it out so that he could obtain $650,000, because there's a lot of people that would just settle off at 20 grand and go, all right, this is all that I can make.
Yeah, and he's been in it for 7 years at this point. He started in 2010. He left his job in 2012, and then in 2017 he raised $650,000. So
yeah,
he's been at it for a while. And he understands what he wanted to create, and he was able to get the funds for that.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that he's working it out. Has worked it out.
You know, I'm really proud that we've built a really diverse company. And I think the reason why that was so important to me was because I knew what it felt like to be marginalized. I felt like I knew what it meant to feel like a minority. And I wanted to make sure that people who were talented and smart and driven had the opportunity, and that Jubilee was a place that people would be able to thrive.
We were just looking at costing plus what makes sense for the first drop.
Yeah. I think one thing that doesn't get discussed very often is that when you're a founder of a company, it's not just you who is really feeling that pressure and the burden, but also your spouse or your partner.
Oh, yeah.
Because of COVID, we had to postpone our wedding, but we are able to have a small family ceremony. And
so he said, when you have a startup or when you're the founder of a company, not only is it stressful on you, but it's also stressful on your partner. Now, with us being the founders, both being the founders of the company, how do you think that played a role in our relationship?
That's a good question.
Or the stress? I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, I want to make sure that I have a thoughtful response to this. I would say initially, I didn't feel like things had changed. I felt like, oh, you know, we just get to spend more time together.
Right.
And I thought you're pretty cute, so why not? So
yeah, I'd definitely rather spend time with you than my coworkers.
Exactly. But I can definitely say as time went on, and the more time that we spend in our business, we realized that we have a difficult time compartmentalizing our relationship, our professional relationship and our personal relationship. And sometimes we end up talking business in bed when we need to be completely, you know, about Darius and Carmen, you know, the personal side of things. Right. So I think naturally just us constantly being in business together, we had a difficult time having date night without talking about business. So and not that's an issue. I just think those are things that we have prioritized, and things that we need to continue to prioritize is the difference between our work life and our personal life. Yeah,
I agree. And it's never been stressful for us as a couple. It's just been stressful as a business owner. We shared a similar headache in, oh, this isn't working, or we need to respond to this, or we need to go and put out this fire type thing.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is, since our personalities are very different, the things that stress you out don't get me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have somebody else step up to the plate that you know, love, and trust, who can, you know, take and maybe lead something when you might need a moment.
Right. Yeah. Sweet.
We're hoping to still have a wedding later this year. I think one thing that I'm really proud of is actually that my wife makes more money than I do. She also supports a lot of the work that we do as Jubilee. It allows me to dream bigger, honestly, and believe that, the money and time that we might be sacrificing as a part of being a part of a startup will be worth it one day. We try to save or invest at least 30% of our income.
30%.
30%. Mm-hmm. Now, what we've been saying on the channel all the time is 20%.
Mm-hmm. Saving 20%.
Saving 30%. Putting
saving 20%.
I'm sorry, 20%. Putting 20% aside for your savings.
Yes.
Now, Jason's coming in saying that he's setting aside 30% of his income.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think 20% is bad, or not bad,
hard,
then 30% is something that
20% is bad in a good way.
Yeah, but it's something that you want to strive to, and the more money you make, the more money you should be putting aside and putting aside to invest.
Absolutely.
The more money you invest, that's the less time you have to spend
on the back end trying to
make it up.
So let's see what else they're saying here. He allocates $1,100 a month to equity, cryptocurrency, and angel investing, which is kind of
our index funds and individual stocks, and then a portion into what I would call slightly more risky investments, everything from cryptocurrency to angel investment. When I'm outdoors or when I'm in the ocean, you're literally not able to be thinking about work. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so refreshing for me to do some of those things.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we really enjoyed prior to COVID. One of the reasons why we traveled so much, because it allowed us to detach from work. That's one of the things that we enjoyed. He's putting aside $300 a month just for travel. And you really just need to have time just to separate from business, which is something that we were alluding to earlier, where we were talking about how much stress this is put on us being a business owner.
I totally agree. And again, just going back to the fact of he is prioritizing everything in his life. He knows that he wants to scuba dive and be outdoors. So he puts money aside towards that. A lot of times we don't think about putting money aside towards our hobbies. And if this is something that brings us joy, we absolutely have to throw some money at it, because we all need happiness. We deserve it. And we have to remember that we're working so hard every single day to accomplish our goals, whether it be health, wealth, happiness, whatever it is. And you are worthy of doing the things that it is that you like to do.
Right. Now, the important thing to note is that if Jason didn't prioritize these things with his money, then his spending would be a whole lot different.
Yeah.
It would be completely different. Now, this is a lot of mistakes that we as individuals make, is we don't prioritize our money. Therefore, it ends up doing something completely different than what we think it should be doing.
Totally.
So prioritize your funds.
We're like starting to think about family, want to buy a house. What does that look like? Do we have the finances to do that? My biggest goal in life is not to amass as much money as possible, but also support others and help open up ways for us to do more good. I feel like transparency and authenticity is something that we don't see that often from a lot of startups or founders or leaders. I know that I would have benefited so much from hearing about these conversations. I think growing up, I defined success in the way that a lot of folks around me would define it, which was to make a lot of money or to have a quote unquote respectable job or career. Of course, I want to make money. Of course, I want to be respected. But for me, I want to make a difference. And I want to make something that I'm proud of. And I want to say that I've left an impact for the better.
All right,
Nice.
Jason.
That was a really, really good video. And I love the way that he set up his budget. Now, one thing that he talked about in the end is success. How would you define success?
Ooh, another one putting me on the spot. I would say success is how happy I am. My happy gauge.
Yeah.
If I wake up today and you say, Carmen, you know, how are you feeling? And I say a 10 out of 10, I feel like that's success to me, because, and I'm saying happiness in so many different ways, because your mental health is very, very important, especially with everything going on these days. You have to make sure, you know, mentally, physically, and spiritually, you check all of those boxes. So I would say every single day that I wake up and I feel fulfilled in each one of those boxes, that's a great day for me.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar around the health, wealth, and happiness piece. Is success is being healthy, where I wake up every day, I'm ready to go, wake up early. I enjoy seeing my wife and my daughter, the happiness piece and the wealth. I think the wealth also plays a part in it, but it's not the most important thing. Wealth isn't the most important thing.
It's the tool that allows you to have that happiness, in the sense of making sure that you're able to afford the things that you need and want in life, so that you can be fulfilled.
Yeah. 100%.
I think that's a great question.
100%.
All right. Now, one thing that I want to touch back on, Jason, as we wrap up with his video, is I really love the fact that his finances encompassed everything. Not only was he saving, he was investing, he was donating. He understands the importance about, you know, getting out in the community and serving the community. And he's also doing that through his business in many different ways. So again, just thinking about how well-rounded Jason was. And again, the other individual that we were, that we did the reaction video, he was in DC. He was well-rounded as well. And thinking about, you know, once you hit a certain level of success, what are you doing about it? Because if you're just keeping it, you know, right here in this box, what are you doing to serve your community? What are you doing to help others and to make sure that you look around and everyone else can come up, you know, instead of this crab in a barrel type of mentality? How can you reach out and help people so that everyone can do what they want to do and thrive? Which is why I love the fact that he said he was doing some angel investing and helping other startups get off the ground.
Right. If you want to be successful, help someone else be successful.
Absolutely.
That's how you get it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue to do reactions on these Make It videos, because we feel it just brings a completely different perspective to the world of finance. And we'd like to just talk about it and learn from it. So we hope that you got some amazing nuggets from this video as far as saving, investing, and what you should be doing to make sure that you can start accomplishing the goals for yourself. All right, Wealth Nation, now go ahead and check out our next video, where you can see the gentleman who lived off of $45,000 living in our nation's capital, and make sure that you own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.